Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel, late evening edition. Today is September 5th, Wednesday, 2018. Already halfway through the work week. Wanted to open up with the show with this gorgeous sun halo, and this is the second one of its kind that I've seen in just the past few hours, actually in the last 24 hours. What's gorgeous about this and other shots that I've seen is that might be too big, Jake. Come on. Alright, so it's gonna show its butt here on live. This one right here is gorgeous. The rainbows on the side, the sun dogs on the outer side of the ring of the halo, and then of course on top. You know, these are, I was just talking to somebody about how these tend to be more visually seen in the fall and early spring, but especially in the fall and late fall that we see a lot more of these. And we're into the 5th day of September and already receiving images like this. Now this is very complex. Now, this is not just your normal sun halo. But the reason why we are seeing, and again, I know everybody hates the term or not everybody likes the description here, but we're talking about ice crystals. And I believe that this is part of proof where we talk about minimums and signs from the skies that we see during these minimums and grand minimums, and this just adds up to with what we teach here on this channel, what we talk about, cooling atmosphere and the presence of cosmic rays, more particles in our atmosphere. This is a perfect example right here of the science part of the grand solar minimum and some of the things that we take in. I remember when I first started looking at sundogs a couple years ago, and I read back, and I was fascinated to find out that these have only been photographed since 1985. And before that, you know, apparently there wasn't anything like this on record photographically. And to see how much the intensification of these halos and where they show up now and how they show up, and this is absolutely gorgeous. And just one of the best things about science here is what Mother Nature reveals to us. And if you don't think the planet doesn't talk to us, well, this is one way right here, how our planet responds to its habitat and what's going on, the inner workings. Perfect example, though, of evidence that we are definitely heading through a change, and these are definitely natural phenomena, not man-made or anything like that. So let's get to the space weather. Our solar wind speeds are sitting right around 504.6 kilometers per second with a density of 4.3. We have 0 sunspots once again, and that'll put us at 7 days in a row now without a sunspot. That puts us at 138 days for 2018. Take a look at our KP indices. We are at a 2 with a 24-hour max of a 4. Take a look at SDO right now. Let's look at it in motion as half the sun's disappeared. Okay. So here we have that Earth-facing coronal hole, which is now starting to turn away from us. We should expect increased solar wind speeds from that around September 7th. And here we have a region right here that is also beginning to form as well. So we could have 2 days of geomagnetic unrest in the area. But other than that, all clear for sunspots. Nothing in the foreseeable future right now. Nothing on the far eastern horizon either. So we'll keep our eyes on it like always. And let me get to the TSI. Here we go. Our current TSI numbers for August, well, that's not even right. Probably helps if I have the correct information up. Here we go. August 29th, 2018. We had a total TSI reading of 1360.693. So again, slight decline around the 26th of August going into the 27th. And since then, we have seen the TSI pretty much rebound to where it left off before it dipped just a hair, not a lot. All right, and let's take a look here. We have an earthquake to talk about. This is a very strong and shallow 6.7 earthquake hits Hokkaido, Japan. This happened around 1807 UTC time on September 5th. The agency is reporting a depth of about 24.8 miles. USGS is reporting a 6.6 at a depth of 19.2 miles. So the Japan Meteorology Association came in just a little bit higher than what the USGS did, but the depth is shallower with the USGS. There's about 3.4 million people living in the area. 29,000 people are estimated to have felt a very strong shaking, and about 196,000 felt strong shaking. I'm sorry, these are in the millions. I apologize, folks. 1.1 million felt strong, 1.7 felt moderate, and 3.2 million had felt light shaking as well. So this was a quake that definitely people felt the tremors. Again, the stats, this has been probably the first one I've seen in a while that we've seen go up on the severe scale at very strong. The next one above it is severe and violent. So we were not too far away from seeing a serious situation here. Overall population in the regions resides in structures that are resistant to earthquake and shaking, though vulnerable to structures do exist. The predominant vulnerable buildings types are adobe block and reinforced brick with mud construction. Recent earthquakes in this area have caused secondary hazards such as landslides and fires that may have contributed to the losses. We'll leave the link in the description. Staying with the Watchers here, and I decided to go with this story here from the Watchers for a few reasons. I could have easily went over to weather.com and pulled a story, I'm sure, or AccuWeather.com. I'm pretty sure I could have pulled an update, a summary on the update of Gordon. However, I feel like it's important to try to stop feeding these mainstream weather media channels and giving them any more credit than what they think they deserve. Weather Channel has gotten to me a little bit too over the line with them rooting for storms to hit. AccuWeather will continue to post stories that will tell people that the Arctic is melting, and yet, the opposite's happening, and people are getting hurt because of that, because of people who are contributing to fake news and lying about what's going on in the Arctic. It could have killed somebody in the Northwest Passage. So I decided to go with, I don't think all of this is up to date and current, but the point I'm trying to make is that if I'm going to give Watchers credit for their reporting around the world, at least I can depend on these guys to execute the truth when it comes to reporting on these stories. And honestly, this website, in my opinion, has had some favorable content that would be good for us GSM community types here. I'm not going to deny that, but they don't come out and dance around and pick a side. But they are reporting on things that are very relevant to us in the world, and as well the people that are affected by these events. But anyway, I'll do a quick little update about Gordon. I don't think it was a big deal. There was some coastal flooding that was expected. They're talking about once the storm goes inland that there could be anywhere from 4 to 8 inches in areas near the Gulf Coast, but also up here in Mississippi and into Arkansas, they're concerned with flooding anywhere from 8 to 12 inches through late Thursday on September 6th. And that's parts of central Mississippi, northeastern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, with isolated maximum amounts of 12 inches through late Thursday night. So they've got to deal with this moisture. Very unfortunate news as well. Escambia County Sheriff's Office stated on Tuesday night that a child in Pensacola, Florida was killed after a tree toppled over onto the mobile home. leaving the front of the structure crushed. I heard or I saw the interview with the neighbor that tried to help. Unfortunately, they could not do anything to free the child from the crushed room that it was in. So very, very, very tragic news. So far, only one death has occurred, and unfortunately, this was one of those things. A tree fell on the trailer, and the tree was pretty big. So it's a very unfortunate situation. For the most part, I think a lot of people took the warnings and heeded them well. They did what they could. A lot of people hunkered down and tried to ride this out. Some have been successful. Others are cleaning up a major mess right now. And we'll take a look at our hurricane page here at SpaghettiMiles.com. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about Florence. There is starting to become more and more noise about Florence and what she might do. And right now, she's a Category 4 at 130 miles an hour, sustained maximum winds. Central pressure is a 953. It's a pretty good sized storm. I showed you why last night. Our water temperature in this region here is very warm. This area is very warm and will support hurricanes. And last night we showed the GFS model taking it right about here. It's about that big too, honestly, when you look at the GFS. And then a high pressure system kicks in and carries it off into the north. Also, these two waves right here get sucked up with Florence and follow suit. But what I showed you guys last night was Florence heading in the direction of Pennsylvania, New York City, and then heading back out, not coming close to landfall. That has changed a little bit. And I guess that's why these meteorologists are telling us we just have to keep an eye on these things. And let me show you what's changed. The GFS is now showing Florence. Right now, its current track is precise. And because of the delay of this high pressure system coming into the ocean here, it's in Maine, New England area, it allows this storm to get a little bit closer to the East Coast. Now, Rob, this morning, I was checking my messages, and Rob had told me that he thinks this storm, Florence, is going to hit southeast South Carolina. And looking at this latest GFS model, I'm now chuckling at it, because this morning I thought, no, it's not going to happen. What's he looking at? Here it is. So tonight, this storm, they bump it up one day, and we do see a little bit closer approach, but the end result is still the same. This bad boy is going to take off into the North Atlantic, and it's going to bring those other two waves with it, eliminating any hurricane threat whatsoever in the region. And in almost this part of the tropics and the Atlantic is going to be just like the face of our sun right now, blank. So I thought it was worth mentioning, because last night, I was trying to show how right now, and this is still far away. I mean, we're talking about the 14th of September here is when they've got this thing coming a little bit closer to the East Coast than what we originally thought. Now, another thing to also notice as well, we're not seeing all the bright yellows and reds that we were seeing when it reached to this point right here. So the storm still looks very organized, very tight isobars. Central pressure actually is being predicted right now to drop around the 920 mark. So that's a pretty good drop in pressure. But once again, once that high pressure system gets into gear, it will pull this storm away from the East Coast of the United States. Will be spared at this point. And I keep saying at this point because if our tracking from last night's show in 24 hours has become that much closer, then we really have to take a look at the other possibilities. And I saw some other runs, and once again, the euro has got this thing a little bit closer than what GFS. I'll pause it right here. This is where GFS is saying we're going to be at, but this is where the Euro model is bringing this storm. So kind of picture the center of that circle right there being where the Euro models, closer to Pennsylvania, closer to New York City, closer to Jersey. With that being said, if the storm does get this close, we most certainly can have some wave issues. Just because the rain bands stop right here doesn't mean we're not dealing with high tide and then possibly storm surge from this pretty decent sized system that's sitting parked right outside the east coast of the United States. So, you never can tell. The weather changes daily. But the only thing that I see right now that I like the most, the consistency part of the GFS, is when this storm does push away from the east coast, it still pulls those other two tropical waves with it. So a little bit of good news. That's the silver lining, is that the end process of this looks to be the same. That once this system moves away from the United States, it's going to pull those other tropical waves with it. But the only thing that I don't like about it tonight is how much closer it comes to the East Coast on the 14th of September before finally taking off and launching itself into the North Atlantic. See you, bye-bye. Have a nice day. So there is just a quick look at what we might be dealing with hurricane-wise with Florence. I titled that What's Up with Florence because last night she looked like she really wasn't going to be much of a factor, and things can still change. A new model could come out, and who knows, they might have it forecasted to hit land. But right now, we're still less than 10 days away, so we'll just have to keep monitoring this every day. And here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel, we'll let you know if there's any updates or any changes to this track. And a bit of more bad news from overseas here. 151 dead or missing, tens of thousands displaced as major floods hit North Korea after unprecedented drought. Now, this number here says that 76 people have been killed and 75 others have remained missing after extremely heavy rains hit parts of North Korea at the end of August of 2018. The major flooding continued into September. It came after unprecedented drought hit the area in July and August, forcing authorities to call on its people to wage an all-out battle against a record heat wave that hit hard already fragile crops. Let's see here. They're talking about Tropical Storm Solik. It was part of the problem here that started on August 23rd and 24th. Worst affected city was Munchen, where it had 10 reported deaths. 60 people were missing still. In both Munchen and Kawao cities, over 58,000 people were reportedly displaced. And then in Gangwon's Kumcheon town, heavy rains took place between August 28th and the 30th, partially covering a highway just south of town. The town recorded as much as 26.69 inches of rain between 1300 local time, August 28th, and 1700 the following day. .69 inches of rain fell in 28 hours in a town in North Korea. What about this here does not deserve the headlines in all of the evening news? Am I reading this right? The town recorded as much as 26.69 inches of rain between 1300 local time, August 28th, and 1700 on the following day. Mind-boggling. No one. I watched the evening news. You know what was in the evening news tonight, folks? This opinion editorial article in the New York Times. An opinion editorial article. That was the headline on all the news channels. And then from there it went further into about Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, his hearing today. And then a couple more about Nike and the ad. And then I know I'm forgetting something else. But that was the gist of today's headlines. So let's ignore North Korea here, right? This ain't nothing. This ain't news. 26.69 inches of rain in 28 hours. Many schools and health facilities were destroyed or damaged, as well as water supply systems in the Munchen City, leaving tens of thousands of people without access to safe drinking water. I bet. Agricultural land has been damaged or washed away. The government is providing assistance in terms of search and rescue, temporary shelter, and health care. The government is providing assistance in terms of search and rescue, temporary shelter, and health care. I sure hope that part of the shelter and rescue and the health care is food and water too, as well. Anyway, I'm a little upset. I can't believe that I'm reporting on a YouTube channel, and I'm probably the only one tonight that's mentioning this in the headlines of any news broadcast. And just to show you how deep the censorship is about extreme weather, only if it fits the narrative. Because AGW doesn't know how to explain how we went from the worst drought ever in this region to an event that led to 26.69 inches of rain in 28 hours. And it wasn't a hurricane. I mean, yes, there was a tropical storm, so like, yeah, I'm just saying that this is, to me, in 26 hours or 28 hours, and we're talking about other things, but you know, this isn't newsworthy, I guess. So hopefully everything's okay over there. I can only imagine they have a huge mess to clean up, and a very unfortunate situation, and hopefully it gets more attention. Hopefully the donations pour in and help these folks out, because I can't imagine the devastation that 26.69 inches of rain causes in 28 hours. And just forget about the damage from the water. You're talking about clean drinking water that's not available. Power's out everywhere. Roads are inaccessible. So now we might be talking about the possibility of not getting medicine and food to people who need it. Just a bad situation right now. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Hopefully we'll be able to find another article that will even mention this, let alone give us an update. Thanks to the watchers. Historic flooding hits Manhattan, Kansas. State of emergency declared in 5 counties. More flooding. 9 inches of rainfall late Sunday, September 2nd into Monday, causing major flash flooding, forcing more than 300 people to evacuate their homes. Additional shower and thunderstorm chances will allow the threat for flash flooding and river flooding to continue through Friday night, September 7th. We'll take a look at our current radar, and this just looks like a repeat of last night, what I showed you guys. The heavy rain that was going into the northwestern part of Wisconsin. Well, you guys get the night off, but now the southeast part and central parts of Illinois are feeling the moisture. Meanwhile, in Kansas, near Wichita, heavy rain is persisting. It's moving at a snail's pace right now, so we'll have to watch for any kind of flood reports down there south of Wichita. Show you guys what I'm talking about. Just some spotted showers here in Oklahoma, Texas, Mississippi. You will see that is the remain of Gordon, and it is forecasted to travel this direction and make a bend towards Ohio, and possibly even here as far as the Adirondacks, we could possibly see rain showers from this system on Monday. But right now it is all clear. Some action just west of Florida in the Gulf. Nothing affecting mainland or anything like that. A line of thunderstorms is moving towards us here in New York. This is a very, very refreshing cold front that is heading our way right now. And I'm sorry, I wish I could say that for other places, but right here, this leading edge, after these storms come through tomorrow, late tomorrow, and they're predicting strong thunderstorms in the area, which is not usual for this part of New York as well. So tomorrow we'll watch for the storms, but We are talking about highs. The last 3 days, we have had highs in the upper 80s with real feel in the mid 90s. I know Labor Day was hot. We could only spend an hour and a half outside, and everybody said, let's go home. We went to the beach, and we're still had to go home after that. So very hot weather. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday are all forecasted highs up in the mid 60s, 66, 65 degrees, with lows in some spots here in the northern part of New York, upstate, and in the Adirondacks. They're talking about in the upper 30s for lows. So quite a dramatic turnaround for temperatures here in the next 24 to 36 hours here for this area, and other areas too will see the same relief. Speaking of colder stuff, snow atop Pikes Peak. This past weekend, we had a couple of slushy inches of the white stuff, with several viewers noting and photographing it and sending it in. Yes, snow atop America's mountain, and today, more fresh snowfall. Now, it is not rare to see snow atop Pikes Peak every month of the calendar year, but it gets your attention that winter snow can't be too far off. And the earliest snow on record for this area, for the Springs, is September 2nd. And a week later, September 10th for Pueblo. Colorado has had a crazy year of weather, not just with the thunderstorms, but the hail, the size of the hail, the intensity of the hail. And now, some of these areas at higher elevations are looking at snowfall already, which they're saying it's not unusual to see at this time of the year, but it is early. Speaking of Denver or Colorado, marble-sized hail batters cars in Denver metro area where motorists stuck in high water. This was today. A torrent of hail and heavy rain hit the Denver metro area Wednesday afternoon. The storm brought pea-sized ice, with some areas seeing hail as big as marbles in northwest Denver, also in the western suburbs. Showing you the floods. Man, again, this area over and over. Denver, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, those areas have seen their share of floods, hail, severe weather, you name it. Here is the hail that fell, which looks like a light dusting of snow. Street flooding everywhere throughout the area. More footage of hail. I mean, again, this looks like we just got a light dusting of snow. So Colorado, a very active state this year when it comes to weather. We've seen it all through this summer. We've seen all 4 seasons. So, again, these are just some of the few changes that we're going to see to intensify over the next several years heading into this grand solar minimum. All I really had for you was some temperatures, sea surface temperatures. The East Tropical Atlantic has dropped a little bit more, almost at negative 0.5. At a negative 0.436. We did have some rises today. The El Nino jumped up to a balmy 0.146 Celsius above baseline. And the North Atlantic sea surface anomaly is warming up a little bit as well. We are now at negative 0.198. So we're seeing a bit of a late summer warm up, and that's a little erratic compared to what we've kind of monitored since the beginning of June, kind of lackadaisical, and then we get around mid-July, and that's when things kind of got up and down real fast. And it does look like that this is trying to improve, that it wants to warm up here. So we'll keep our eyes on it, but still, we are looking at days below baseline since April of this past spring. So take another quick radar look here at Florence. Very impressive storm. Again, we will keep you guys posted on when and where that is going to hit. If it will hit, it may just come close and kiss the East Coast a little bit and then move away. Hopefully we get minimal damage from any kind of surge or erosion from the beaches. That could be just the worst of it, really. It's just beach erosion and some minor coastal flooding. So that being said, I will check in with my lovely producer, Miss Maury, who is hopefully keeping you animals in check in the chat tonight.
Well, if you mean animals by Rob, Rob. Well, we've been talking about all kinds of things, and we started off the chat with Nibiru, Jake, because I had a joke about the crazy atmospheric phenomena being Nibiru as a laugh. And Rob has some interesting theories about Nibiru, which we ban from talking about on this channel. So I am in violation of GSM regulations, and I'm going to shut up. Anyway, hello everyone in the chat. You know I love you.
That was the lovely Mari. Thank you for always making it interesting. Whenever I check in with the chat, I never know. It's like you got to hold your breath. It's like when you take your kid to Sunday school for the first time and he's not in the nursery, and it goes up to the front for story time, and you just hope that your child can say something appropriate to the rest of the folks that are sitting up there listening to the story. Mari, you give me that joy and fear at the same time, and I love you for it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. I hope you guys got something away from our broadcast. Thank you for tuning in late to our show. Thank you to all our subscribers, and we will talk soon, guys. Take care.